They used to call him Old Sam, though he was barely past 50. To them, he was a man who found two abandoned brothers on a freezing night under a broken street lamp. The man who carried them to safety when no one else cared. The man who gave them warmth, food, and the closest thing to a home. But years later, when success twisted their hearts and pride poisoned their memory, they forgot all of that, and the night they beat the very man who once raised them, everything they thought they knew shattered. It all began on a rainy evening, the kind where the city lights blurred like tears. Sam was sitting outside a closed bakery, clutching the only photograph he had of the boys, Malik and Zane, laughing beside him during their street birthdays. He whispered their names sometimes, wondering where life had taken them. What he didn't know was that life had taken them far, but not far enough to escape the consequences of their choices. Malik had become a fast-talking businessman, money first, people later. Zane followed him blindly, hungry for approval, terrified of being left behind. They worked for a ruthless local lender who demanded payments, threats, and fear as a way of keeping their business alive. And when they failed to collect a debt from a powerful client, they needed someone weak, someone harmless, someone who wouldn't fight back, a scapegoat. And so they chose Sam. They didn't recognize him at first. The years had hardened his face, thinned his hair, and bent his back. But Sam recognized him the moment they stepped out of their sleek black car, shouting threats into the alley where he rested. Malik shoved him first. "Where's the money, old man? You think you can stall us?" Sam blinked, confused. "Son, you must have it wrong." Zane kicked him in the ribs before he could finish. Malik grabbed Sam by the collar, ready to throw another punch, when the street light above flickered, illuminating Sam's trembling hands and a photograph that slipped from his pocket onto the wet pavement. Malik froze. His breath caught. His eyes latched onto the picture. Zane frowned. "What? Why'd you stop?" Malik picked up the photo with shaking fingers. Two little boys. One man. 3 smiles. His voice cracked. "Zane, look." Zane snatched the picture and went still. His knees nearly buckled. No, this can't." His voice broke into pieces. That's us, Malik." Sam, bruised and bleeding, looked at them with fear and something deeper, something heartbreakingly gentle. "My boys, you grew up." Zane stumbled backward, horrified. Malik's face went pale. The rain felt colder suddenly, sharper, like it was punishing them for forgetting the one person who never should have been forgotten. But before either brother could speak, a shadow moved at the end of the alley. A man stepped forward, bald, muscular, and holding a baton. He worked for the same lender they did, but unlike Malik and Zane, he recognized Sam too. Well, the enforcer said with a cruel smile. "You idiots actually found him. The old rat who disappeared after ruining the boss's plan years ago." Malik stiffened. "What are you talking about?" The enforcer smirked. "You really don't know, do you? That homeless man you just beat, he's a reason you two ever made it out of the streets alive." Sam's eyes widened. "Please don't." "Oh, I'll tell them," the man growled, grabbing Sam by the shirt. "Your precious Sam here stole money from a boss years ago to save you 2 brats. Enough to buy food, blankets, medicine. The boss still wants that money back, and he doesn't care if Sam survives a reminder." Zane's face twisted. "He stole for us?" Malik stepped forward. "Put him down." The enforcer laughed. "Or what? You think the boss will spare you if you defend him? Both of you work for him. You belong to him." The rain intensified. Thunder rumbled like the heavens themselves were holding their breath. Sam coughed weakly, whispering, "Boys, go. Don't get involved. I made my choices." But Malik shook his head slowly. Something inside him cracked open. Something buried for years. "No, you made sacrifices, not choices." Zane clenched his fists, stepping beside his brother. "We're not leaving you again." The enforcer swung the baton toward Malik's head. And that was when everything changed in a single violent second. Malik ducked instinctively, but the baton grazed his shoulder with a sickening thud. Pain shot down his arm, but he didn't fall. Zane lunged forward, grabbing the enforcer's wrist, trying to wrestle the weapon away. The alley erupted into chaos, Rain, shouts, fists, and the metallic clang of the baton hitting the ground. The enforcer was stronger, heavier, and trained to break men. He shoved Zane back like he weighed nothing. Malik tackled him from the side, but the man barely staggered. He swung wildly, catching Malik in the ribs and sending him to his knees. Sam tried to crawl toward them, but his legs shook. "Stop, please, don't get hurt for me." But Zane didn't listen. Not anymore. Not after seeing that photo. Not after understanding what Sam had done. How he had stolen not for himself, but for two boys who weren't even his blood. The enforcer lifted Malik by his shirt and slammed him against the brick wall. Malik gasped, choking for breath. "You siblings really don't learn," the man spat. "The boss owns you, and anyone who protects this rat." A sudden clang echoed through the alley. Zane had grabbed a rusted metal pipe from behind a trash bin and swung it with all the strength he had. The strike caught the enforcer across the back, making him stagger forward. He dropped Malik, cursing in rage. "You little," he whirled toward Zane. Zane took a shaky step backward. He wasn't a fighter. He had never been. But fear wasn't the strongest thing in him anymore. Love, raw, painful, newly awakened, was stronger. The enforcer charged. Malik forced himself up, despite the burning pain in his ribs. He rammed his shoulder into the enforcer's side, making him collide with the wall. The pipe slipped from Zane's grip, clattering to the ground. Malik snatched it and swung with a fury he didn't know he had, hitting the man on the arm, then the shoulder, then the ribs. The enforcer roared in pain, grabbing Malik's wrist and twisting until the pipe fell. He shoved Malik down again and aimed a brutal kick at him, only for Sam, trembling and barely able to stand, to throw himself between them. Sam fell to his knees from the force of the kick, but he shielded Malik with his own body. The enforcer paused, shocked. "You're still protecting them? After what they did?" Sam winced, coughing blood. "They're my boys." Something flickered in Malik's chest, a burning, crushing weight of guilt he couldn't hide from anymore. Zane felt it too. For years they had blamed the world, blamed the past, blamed the hunger and the cold. They had forgotten the hands that fed them, the arms that carried them, the man who had been father, mother, and shelter. The enforcer grabbed Sam by the hair, pulling his head back. "The boss will make an example of all three of you. Tonight." Zane's voice cracked like glass. "Let him go." "Shut up," the enforcer growled. "You idiots should have run when you had the chance." He raised a baton to strike Sam's skull. Malik's scream tore from somewhere deep and primal. "Stop." But the enforcer didn't stop. The baton dropped, and then another sound cut through the alley. A loud metallic click. A gun being cocked. "Drop the weapon." A cold voice ordered from behind the enforcer. The man froze. Slowly, he turned his head. Two police officers stood at the mouth of the alley, guns raised. Their cruiser lights flashed silently through the rain. One officer stepped forward. "Now, hands where we can see them." The enforcer hesitated. For a second, Malik thought he would attack anyway. But with a curse, he let the baton fall to the ground and raise his hands. The officers moved quickly, forcing him to his knees and cuffing him. "Melika lips beside Sam," shaking. "Sam, can you hear me?" Sam blinked slowly. His voice was a whisper. "You shouldn't have fought him." Zane knelt on Sam's other side, tears mixing with the rain. "We should have done a lot of things, Sam, but we didn't. We didn't remember, we didn't even try. We're so sorry." Sam smiled faintly, the way he used to when they were kids. Soft, warm, forgiving. "Boys don't owe me anything. You survived. That's all I ever wanted." Malik felt his throat close. The guilt was suffocating, heavy, relentless. "We hurt you," he whispered. "We hurt the only person who ever cared about us. I don't know how to fix that." Sam's fingers brushed weakly against Malik's cheek. By not walking away again. The officers approached them. One knelt down. "Ambulance is on the way. Stay with him, okay?" Zane nodded frantically, holding Sam's hand. "We're not going anywhere." But Malik noticed something. The officers weren't just here by chance. He looked at the nearest one. "How did you know to come?" The officer gestured toward the bakery. Shop owner called. Said he saw 3 men cornering a homeless guy in the alley. Cameras caught the whole thing. Malik's heart sank. The whole thing. The beating. The shouts. Their faces. Everything. Zane realized it too. We're going to jail, aren't we? The officer didn't answer directly. Right now. The priority is getting him medical attention. But Malik understood. He had spent years making terrible choices. And tonight, those choices had finally caught up. The ambulance sirens grew louder as they approached. Sam closed his eyes, exhausted. Malik squeezed his hand gently. Stay with us, Sam. Please. I'm not going anywhere, Sam murmured. When the paramedics arrived, they lifted Sam onto a stretcher. He winced in pain, but his grip on Malik's fingers didn't weaken. Can we ride with him? Zane asked desperately. One paramedic nodded. One of you, yes. Malik nudged his brother. Go. Stay with him. Zane climbed into the ambulance, gripping Sam's hand as though it were the last solid thing in his world. The doors closed, and the sirens wailed as the ambulance sped away through the rain. Malik stood in the alley, drenched, bruised, shaking, and completely hollow. The officer approached him. Son, you need to come with us. Malik didn't resist. He didn't argue. He didn't even flinch when the cold metal cuffs clicked around his wrists. He only looked down the road where the ambulance had disappeared. Everything was different now. Everything had changed in one night, and he knew he had to change too, but not for himself, for the man who raised him, for Sam, for the brother he once led astray. The officer guided him toward the police car, but Malik's mind stayed with Sam, broken, bleeding, still smiling, still calling them his boys. The rain fell harder, and Malik whispered under his breath, to no one and to Sam at the same time, I will make this right, whatever it takes. Malik had always thought that moments of transformation came like lightning, quick, bright, impossible to miss. But sitting in the back of the police car, drenched in rain and regret, he realized the truth. Sometimes change crawls in quietly, through guilt and memory, through the echo of a man's soft voice, say my boys, even after being beaten by the very children he saved. The ride to the station blurred into a haze of flashing lights and sirens fading in the distance. He wasn't afraid of jail. He wasn't afraid of consequences. What haunted him, what tore at him, was the image of Sam lying on that wet pavement, whispering forgiveness with blood on his lips. Hours passed before Malik was allowed a phone call. His hands shook as he dialed a hospital. Zane answered instantly, his voice breaking the moment he heard Malik's. He's alive, Zane said, but the relief in his voice was knotted with fear. But he's not good. Internal bleeding, broken ribs, concussion. They're keeping him in intensive care. Malik closed his eyes, swallowing the burn in his throat. Can I talk to him? He's unconscious. They're watching him closely. Malik. Zane inhaled shakily. He asked for you before he passed out. Malik leaned his head against the cold wall of the holding cell. I'll be there. I don't care what happens, I'm coming. But it wasn't that easy. He was charged with assault, reckless endangerment, and involvement with the lender's illegal operation. Bail was set high, too high for someone who had lived off fear and empty promises instead of savings. Yet by morning, the guard came to the cell door and said, You're out. Malik blinked, confused. What? Who posted my bail? The guard pointed down the hallway. He did. Standing there, hair messy, eyes red, clothes still stained with Sam's blood, was Zane. I used everything I had saved, Zane said, voice trembling. Sam would want you with him. Not here. Malik didn't speak. He simply pulled his brother into a tight, desperate hug, the kind they hadn't shared since they were children huddled together against winter winds. At the hospital, the world felt too quiet, too sterile, too fragile. Machines beeped softly as Sam lay motionless on the bed, tubes and wires tracing over his frail body, like veins of light trying to hold him together. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale, but he was alive. Malik moved his bedside, overwhelmed. I'm here, Sam, he whispered. We're both here. Sam's eyes fluttered open slowly, weak but aware. A tender smile pulled at his lips. Told you, I'm not going anywhere. Malik dropped to his knees beside the bed, tears finally breaking free. I'm so sorry. For everything. For leaving. For hurting you. For forgetting you. Sam reached out a trembling hand, placing it gently on Malik's cheek. You didn't forget me. You got lost. But even lost boys find their way home. Zane moved closer, gripping Sam's other hand. We're not going anywhere either. Not again. Sam's eyes softened with a warmth that felt like sunrise after a long, brutal night. Good, he whispered, because I always knew you'd come back. But the peace of that moment didn't last long. 2 officers stepped into the room, the same ones from the alley. Malik and Zane Khan. One said quietly, "We need to speak with you." For a moment, Malik thought this was it. The end. Jail. Separation. More loss. But then the officer lowered her voice. Your actions last night were caught on camera. So were the enforcers. You defended a vulnerable man. You protected him. And you tried to stop the fight more than once. The charges against you are being reconsidered. Zane blinked, stunned. What does that mean? It means, the officer continued, you're no longer suspects. You're witnesses and victims of the same criminal network. Malik stared, speechless. The officer added, your cooperation could help bring the entire operation down. You both have a choice. Help us or walk away and face the consequences of staying tied to that world. Malik didn't hesitate. We'll help. Zane nodded instantly. Whatever it takes. The officers left them with instructions, contact numbers, and an upcoming court date. But as soon as they walked out, both brothers turned back to Sam, because the cops could wait. Sam could not. Over the next days, they never left his side. Malik slept in the chair by his bed. Zane brought food the nurses had to remind them to eat. They told Sam stories, apologized over and over, shared memories they thought they had forgotten. And slowly, so slowly, it felt like the years between them were shrinking, folding in on themselves, stitching together the family they once were. On the 4th night, Sam woke to find Malik staring at her with a notebook in his lap. What's that? Sam croaked. Malik straightened. A plan. Sam raised a brow. For what? For your life, Malik said firmly. To get you off the streets. To get you somewhere safe. You don't ever have to sleep outside again. Not while we're breathing. Zane chimed in, holding a folder, and I found a rental nearby. Small but clean. Warm. We'll cover the rent. You'll never worry again. But Sam shook his head gently. Boys, you know me a home. Malik leaned forward. You gave us one. Now it's our turn. Sam's eyes filled with emotion, his voice barely holding steady. I didn't save you so you'd carry my weight later. You didn't save us, Malik said softly. You raised us. And raising someone means they rise for you when you fall. For the first time, Sam didn't argue. He let those words settle into his heart. Recovery took weeks. Court hearings took months. Malik and Zane testified against a lender, exposing the abuse, the debts, the violence. They faced the stares of men they once feared. But they stood tall, shoulder to shoulder, because Sam was watching from the gallery, smiling proudly through tears. And when the judge announced that the operation was dismantled and many lives had been freed from its grip, Malik felt something he hadn't felt since childhood. Redemption. True, deep, cleansing redemption. They moved Sam into his new home on a sunny morning. The apartment was small, but the walls were freshly painted, the kitchen clean, the bed soft. Sam stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. You boys did all this? Zane laughed. Not boys anymore. Malik placed a hand on Sam's shoulder. But still yours. Sam walked slowly into the room, brushing his fingers across the edge of the bed. I never thought I'd have something like this again. A place, a space, a home. You always deserved one, Malik said quietly. Life just forgot to give it to you. Sam turned toward them, his eyes shimmering. Life didn't forget. It gave me you too, and that was enough. But Malik shook his head. Not anymore. Enough is when you're safe, when you're respected, when you're loved the way you loved us. Zane added, and we're going to spend the rest of our lives making sure you have that." Sam pulled both brothers into a shaky embrace. For a moment, everything went silent, except the beating of 3 hearts that had finally found their way back to each other. Years flowed by, but the bond never loosened again. Sam lived the rest of his life, not as a forgotten man on the streets, but as a father of 2 sons who refused to let him slip through the cracks of the world. Malik started a community outreach program, helping homeless families find shelter. Zane became a counselor for troubled youth, guiding kids who reminded him of himself. And together, the 3 of them visited the streets they once survived, only now not to sleep there, but to lift others from them. Sam often watched them from a park bench, pride shining in his eyes. "Look at my boys," he would whisper, voice thick with emotion. "Look at what they became." But Malik and Zane always answered the same way. "We became what you taught us to be." Sam passed away years later, peacefully, in the home they gave him. Not alone, not forgotten, not homeless. His final words, whispered with a trembling smile, were, "You found your way, and you brought me with you." On the day of his funeral, the small chapel overflowed. People Sam had helped, strangers he had comforted, families he had saved through Malik's and Zane's work. The brothers stood at the front, each holding half of the old photograph from years ago, the one that changed everything. Malik looked out at the crowd, then at his brother, then at the casket. "We weren't his blood," he said softly, "but he made us his sons." Zane placed the picture gently inside the casket, and we will spend every day honoring that. As the lid closed, sunlight broke through the clouds, soft, warm, golden, almost like Sam was smiling down at them, almost like he was saying, "My boys, you made it home.